2.5 Reason using properties from algebra. From this point on, we're going to start doing what we call proofs. We're going to start with the easier ones by proving or giving logical arguments about geometric figures using properties that we have learned so far. First thing we're going to do is apply algebra properties. So looking at the algebraic properties of equality, the addition properties where you can add the same thing to both sides of an equal sign. Subtraction, subtract the same thing to both sides of an equal sign. Multiplication, same thing, multiply the same thing to both sides. Division, can divide the same thing to both sides. And substitution is where you can substitute a value for another one in any equation or expression. So, I'm going to give you the steps. You're going to give me the reasons. But to start, we're going to write down the explanations. So we're going to solve 2x plus 5 equals 20 minus 3x, writing a reason for every step. So the first step is going to be that it's the original equation. That's our explanation. Our reason is that it's given. Okay, take note of what's happening in the next step. What's happening in the next step is that you see I am adding same thing to both sides. And what is that called? Addition property of equality. Then what's happening is you can see that you are combining like terms. That's called, when you combine like terms, simplify. Then what's happening? Well, I can see that the 5 is missing, so I'm subtracting . From each side. So what is that? That is the subtraction property. So what you have to do if you abbreviate, is you want to make sure that you use enough letters I can tell the difference between subtraction and substitution, or it will be marked wrong. And then I can see that the 5's missing, and the way I can do that is I divide each side by 5, and that's division property. Okay, the distributive property can be either direction, where you are distributing out or multiplying through, or where you are bringing it out and almost like factoring. So either way, either direction is a distributive property. So looking at example 2, first thing is that it's the original equation. And when you write the original equation, that's your given. And I'm multiplying through, which is actually the distributive property. And then I'm adding 8 to both sides. So that's the addition property. And then we're dividing by negative 44. So that's the division property. When we take real world problems, we usually have some kind of formula, and then we just rearrange that formula. So that's what we're going to do in this next problem. You see that when you exercise, your target rate should be between 50% and 70% of your maximum heart rate. Your target heart rate at 70% can be determined by this formula. Where A represents your age in years. Solve the formula for A. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is write down the original equation. Again, the explanation is that it's the original equation. Reason I can write it is that it was given to me. So what's the first step? I'm multiplying here. You could either distribute it, which is one thing, or I think that's what I'll do. So the only way to do this, you could have divided by 0.7, but since we were doing distributive property, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, and then I still am trying to isolate the A, so I need to subtract. So that's the subtraction property. And then the last thing we do is divide the whole thing by negative 0.7. Just make it a little bit thicker so you can see it over top of this. So that's the division property of equality. Okay, so take a few minutes, pause the video, try the three guided practice problems, and then push play and check your work. And then that's the end of day 1. Hopefully you took the time to try these on your own first. Following the examples, first step is always writing the original equation. The reason is always the given. And then from here out, you can do a couple different things. So as long as you have The reasoning for each one, it doesn't matter. But the first thing I'm going to do is put my x's on the same side. And then subtract 9. Oops. And then divide by 7. Again, first step, write the original equation. Distribute. Combine like terms. Subtract 21. And then divide by 11. And our last one says solve the formula A equals 1/2 BH, which is the area formula of a triangle, and solve it for B. Okay, I'm just going to, first thing would be to write, and I'm not going to write the explanations this time. I'm going to just give the reasons. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And since I wanted to say B equals, I'm going to divide by H. And that's the end of day 2. As you work on the problems, make sure you ask me for some assistance so that you know how to do proofs, because it's only going to get harder as we go on.